Now, as I tell my version of Jeff's life, which may or may be, but I'm bound to omit people, omit events. If at any point through his timeline, somebody has a story they'd like to tell or something they would just like to say, bull crap, Jeff, blah, blah, blah. I encourage all of that. Wave a hand, come on up, tell your story. Please, the more breaks I get, the better. I'm with you. Yes. So at any rate, good evening. On behalf of George Keller and the Strand Concert Theater staff, we want to welcome all of you here for Yost Roast 2011, a tribute to Jeff Yost for a lifetime of music. We think tonight will be a lot of fun, and while we may be pretty hard on him periodically, at least I plan on being pretty hard on him periodically, we want you to know, I'm sure, listen, I got dirt on you. I got dirt on you too, baby. Don't go so hard. We want you to know that tonight's event is strictly a result of respect, friendship, and love, and I ain't kidding. We're going to start this evening about the same place Jeff did, in second grade with his first piano lesson. Now, I've always believed that when God blessed someone with an incredible amount of talent, to make it fair to the rest of us, he also cursed them with certain flaws that some talented people can hide, others, they just come pouring out like a faucet. Tonight, we celebrate one of those blessed individuals, but unfortunately, we're probably going to dwell on the flaws. After Jeff has been completely roasted, we will move on to the music portion of the evening. The Beat Boys are going to play, and we will end with an open jam for anybody that wants to get up and play. The crowd is awfully small at this point, but I know we still have already quite a few musicians here. So, but we'll have fun with that too. Now, I have known Jeff, all my life. When our parents traveled together, vacationed together, and partied together, and the parties were kind of the basis. Every New Year's Eve, Doc and Vi would have a party in the basement of the house where Jeff still lives, and to save on a babysitter, my parents would let me stay overnight with Jeff. And every year, well, it was a new story, and Jeff would come up with an idea, whether it was, hey, let's go raid Doc's liquor cabinet, or, hey, let's throw a pack of firecrackers right into the middle of their party. You know, he'd look at me, and I'd give him the same reply. Sure, great idea, let's do it. Well, this has been kind of a continuing theme over our lives. Hey, it's a great idea, let's do it. Hey, ahead of myself. Okay, it's only coincidence that we both started piano lessons in the second grade. I lasted 4 months. He lasted 14 years, or 16? He lasted 14 years. And it gave him the basis in music where lots of musicians can play stuff, but not many can read nor write it nearly as well as Jeff. 1964 came along, and the world changed. John, Paul, George, and Ringo affected everyone. Most of us not nearly as much as they affected Jeff. But he was kind of, I mean, my walls had pictures of him, as most everybody did. But Jeff was totally caught up. In the spring of '64, his sixth grade year, there was a Beatles booster ball held out at the American Legion. Well, Jeff put together his band to go play at this Beatles booster ball. That gets ready, and they call them to go on stage, and his three buddies hightail it out the back door. Jeff, even then never at a loss for nerve, went on, played drums, and sang Beatles songs all by himself. We don't need no stinking band. But a year or so later, 7th, 8th grade, he formed his first real band, which was the Roman Five. They played, well, Roman 5. Who was in Roman? Phil Wassler. Mike Carter. Tim Nitschke. Phil, nice to talk to you. Now I put it together. Okay, so they Roman 5. They played CKLW record hops and wherever pretty much they'd let you, didn't you? Okie doke.
About 3 places, wasn't it, Phil?
That's kind of a reoccurring theme, too. In '67 came the band, the Hamilton Peach. It had John Ivey and Corby Herborn and Mike Carter also, and Jeff, and who else?
Jim Holberg.
And Jim Holberg was in that band. Well, the Hamilton Peach released a 45 RPM record called With the Girl That You Love. Now, at this point, I have a letter I would like to read. If I can read, oh, we'll get there. Much to Jeff's embarrassment, and I like the damn thing. Okay. This is a letter. As a kid, I always resented the basement rehearsals. I would be up in my room, and Holberg would be working his way up the neck of his guitar downstairs and make it squeal so loud my eyeballs would quiver. But on the other side, when they released their 45, I played it for everyone I knew, and everyone would listen, and I'm sure I still have a copy. Your sister says, Jeff, these lifetime things are a little tricky. One is never sure if people are trying to tell you something, like you're getting really, really old. So stay young and keep the music in you. And that's from Sister Sue. Here's the song, With the Girl That You Love. For some reason, we couldn't find a record player to play it on. I wish it would be here. What do you think? Not bad for a bunch of kids in junior high school, you know? Records are available, $14.50 in the lobby.
Wait, I got about 1,000 left.
I know. Then we go to a little life-altering experiences here. About a year later, with almost the same lineup in the band, came Wolfgang, as opposed to the cutesy Hamilton Peach. Here came Wolfgang. Their rendition of the MC5 classic Motor City's Burning was their signature song. They seemed to play everywhere, including they played out at the Cave, if anybody remembers the Cave, where the C&W Auto Supply is. And they opened for the Up. And at one time, they opened for Up, but the White Panther band out of Ann Arbor. But the promoter obviously didn't know one Ann Arbor band from another and told Jeff he was going to have to cool his act down or the next band wasn't going on. You know what kind of a chance he had. But at any rate, now I'm not sure what led from With the Girl That You Love to Motor City's Burning. goes on for about 10 minutes. And that's the MC5's version, by the way. There is no recording of Wolfgang's version. However, I'm sure with the right equipment, it probably sounded the same. Now, I'm not here, you know, the progression from the Hamilton Peach to Wolfgang. Now, I'm not going to say that drugs, specifically LSD, had anything to do with that Okay, I'm saying drugs, especially LSD, had everything to do with that transformation. But, hey, we lived through it. Where am I? Summer of 1970 we're up to. Jeff says, hey, there's a battle of the bands out at the fairgrounds. Let's put together a band and be in it. Great idea, let's do it. And Germ and the Amazing Electric Friends was created for a one-time show by popular demand. I like it because that was the one and only band I was ever in my life. And to this day, I don't really remember what I did to be in this band, except for helping with guitar work. The main thing that happened that night in that band that I remember is I made two lifelong friends, Danny Bagley and Billy Smith. And I'm pretty upset Billy's not here because he promised me he would be. Danny has other obligations. I guess that's the case. I wasn't there at the right time. But in the rest of the band was Kevin and Doug Clark, Randy Meggett, Mike Maltese, and a half dozen others because we had a full stage. We had tape recorders with tape loops going, I buried Paul, you know, that kind of stuff. And we had Kevin we ripped the string board out of a piano, and Kevin had a rubber mallet, and he's back there with this mic string board. Fire extinguishers, we had fire extinguishers. It was, took me a month to clean that crap out of my reel-to-reel. But, you know, somehow we did take second place with about 4 other bands going, what? Were they even playing music? Well, they weren't listening. So, early in the fall, Jeff says, hey, I'm going to promote some shows out at Old Zim's. Great idea, let's do it. So, yeah, you'll need it shortly. So, here is an original poster from the 4 shows. I can't really talk about this and not tell you the whole story. The first week, he booked Up. Once again, the White Panther band out of Ann Arbor. Well, that was because they only charged $200 and didn't need a deposit. And since Jeff was signing Howard Yost to the contracts, and we were a little short on deposit money anyway, Up was the ideal first band. Well, Up comes, and they're passing out. They're the White Panther band. They're passing out the literature, all the revolutionary literature, the free John Sinclair literature, like this. Well, Mr. Zimmerman was out of town that night, and he heard all these reports. You should have seen these hippies, plus the whole band had hair to their ass, and Rasmussen and all those guys. But, all right, Gary, the bass player, you remember Gary. So at any rate, they're there, and Mr. Zimmerman gets the report, oh my God, this is revolutionary, this is horrible stuff. These are the bad guys, you know. But he was a very fair man, and he said, well, I'm going to come this next week, and we'll see what happens. Well, the second week, we had Brownsville Station. Well, Brownsville Station comes down with Cub and the guys, the original Brownsville band, and they're doing Blue Suede Shoes and Shake a Tail Feather and all the songs the Was Band later stole, and Bear, you know, all. What's that? Oh, tell it the way you like, guy. Fortunately, I got the mic, okay? So, at any rate, they're there, and they're doing, you know, this side do Blue Blue, and this side do Suede Shoes, and they're doing this. And Mr. Zimmerman's up there just rocking, having a hell of a time What were you people saying? This is a good thing he's doing. This is a lot of fun for these kids. It's all right. So at any rate, fine, you can keep doing it. So the third week, we have this band out of Ann Arbor, SRC, Scott Richard Case. I always looked at him as kind of a poor man's Mick Jagger, kind of effeminate, tight pants with a salami down his leg. You know, lots of gyrations and stuff like that. And Mr. Zimmerman, he stands back there and he's not quite so sure what we're doing anymore. But one good one, one questionable one, go ahead, let him have the next week. Iggy and the Stooges. So to begin with, the John Drake Shakedown, and John Drake was the lead singer on Journey to the Center of the Mind with Amboy Dukes before he got drafted, went in the service. When he came back, Ted wouldn't have nothing to do with him. Ted wouldn't have nothing to do with him, and he went on his own. Well, his car broke down, so we've got no opening band. Stooges are way late. What are we going to do? The crowd's getting, wait a minute. So Jeff goes on stage with his piano and plays Beatle tunes for half hour, 40 minutes until he was booed off the stage. I don't really know that you were booed off the stage. I was out back getting in trouble. But I guess if you're going to get skewered, I might as well too. At any rate, so in the meantime, Iggy shows up. And they show them into the dressing room, which is the kitchen at Old Zim's. Well, you know, on every Sunday, these were Sunday night shows. Well, every Sunday, Zim's opens up and is a restaurant, right? Well, they would make their own pies back then. And Iggy is sitting in a chair, and he's like this with a cigarette with that much ash on it in one hand and a cup of coffee that goes down the front of him every time he tries to take a sip. And Mr. Zimmerman says to Ron Ashton, lead guitar player?
Yeah, Scott.
Scott Ashton says to Scott Ashton, he says, you know, I don't think you guys should take an invalid along with you when you go to play your gigs. And Ashton tells him, invalid? That's Iggy. That's the lead singer. And oh my God. So in the meantime, here comes Mrs. Zimmerman into the kitchen. And right on cue, Iggy drops his pants, bare naked, pulls on this pair of red silk underwear and a pair of black jeans that were split crotch to crotch. Later in the show, the effect was apparent as this red protrude. You get the idea. So at any rate, well, it was okay till he started pounding it with the microphone. I don't know what he was doing. So at any rate, before this happened, we're in the kitchen, and he changes pants, and he looks over on the counter, and Mr. and Mrs. Zimmerman are standing there. And he looks over on the counter, and he sees a whole cherry pie that hasn't been cut. Well, it got the better of him. He walks over, crams his hand down into this pie, and smears it. Well, some of it probably made his mouth, but that was rough. He came on then and did an incredible 32-minute set. 22-minute set. As far as Mr. Zimmerman was concerned, it was more than long enough. And actually, I didn't hear anybody complain at the end who had paid to get in. It was the guy in the front row who sat there and just plain pissed himself because it was, it was pretty good. So actually, we had 6 shows booked, but that was obviously the last one at Old Zim's. So the 5th show, which had Mike Quattro Jam Band, The Fruit, and who else? A band.
John Drake.
Is that who it was? The third one? Oh, okay. And so we had those 3 bands. Well, we had the show at Cleats in Castalia. Now, the 6th show was canceled altogether. The 6th show was Alice Cooper. And right in the middle of all of this, the song 18 hit, and his price went from $500 to $3,500, which was out of our price range. I mean, it's bad enough that Jeff is supposed to send these contracts back for every band with deposits, and he tells me that he did, but I distinctly remember him saying, I'm supposed to send the contracts. I don't, and it never really did. So that was a pretty memorable event for Fremont at the time. Doo-dah, oh, doo-dah day. Then we get to the summer of 71. Jeff says, he didn't even wait for me to tell him it was a good idea. Jeff decided to promote a huge 3-day festival. Well, he booked a lot of name bands. Where was it going to be? Come on, talk to me. Where?
Somewhere around the area.
Oh, come on. Who's the property out past there? No, I thought it was going to be on Whitaker's.
I keep hearing different places.
It was gonna be in his basement.
I hear where everybody's speculating.
I guess it was going to be in his basement, but he arranged for everything. And then came that same old pesky problem. Contracts with deposits. Well, that was enough to cancel the bands out. But but word had gotten out, and people showed up from like states away. Where's the festival? What? And they got the same reply at every gas station. What the hell are you talking about? The only other thing is that it would have been nice if somebody would have canceled the porta potties, because 2 truckloads of porta potties showed up, and well, I think Jeff was hiding by that point. Are we having fun yet? Nobody else wants to come say nothing? All right. After this, where's that? Well, the only thing we ever did there was the Beat Boy bloodbath. Where's the pipe, John? Not a smoking pipe. It's an inside joke. So at any rate, then came the Jefferson Yesterday with Mark Jackson, Jeff Knopfs, Hoberg, and Dave Hartzell. And they released a 45, Once Upon a Time, and my favorite, Child. Another still in existence. This is the one that I lost 5 copies of when I moved.
Serious?
Yes.
It's the only one I know of.
Well, it's the last one in existence unless you find, you know. Oh, yeah, that was 1975. Also in 75, Jeff made another union that resulted in 4 pretty wonderful children. And Dash.
Who was that 16-year-old girl?
I didn't even bring that part up, you damn cradle robber. And not for that. Well, we're up to July 4th, 1977. Where were you, Guy? Well, I'm about to tell you. If you were among the 30 of us that were at the Surf Place in Port Clinton on July 4th, 1977, you saw, what? You saw about 30 of us, right? You saw the best concert Jeff ever promoted. Unbelievable. Cheap Trick had just released their first album, and here we have, for basically a private showing, Cheap Trick with opening act, the Was Band. Yeah. One of the best concerts I've ever seen. Phil Klink still calls it the best concert he ever saw. But, yeah, and Cheap Trick was awesome. They did 30 of us, and they did 2 full sets. Unbelievable. Did they get paid?
Yeah.
Okay. They got their deposit. Well, yeah, the 30 of us were all on a guest list. I don't know. I don't know. Phil Klink might have paid. He was from Perrysburg. In 79, Jeff made a short-lived stint with The Stomp, with Lee Robards, Guy, Ed Keaton, Buzzy Fretz, and the late, great Brother Bill Sadler. Before I go any further, I'd like a moment of silence for Brother Bill, for Danny Begley, for Jeff Knopfs, John Ivey? Jeff Knopfs, and all the other musicians and brothers we've lost since then. Make it a short one. Mark Jackson, there was a bunch of them. I always thought the short minute of silence should have been a short minute of feedback, but it usually was. Did Brother Bill have anything but 10 on that, Marshall? He broke the knob off. If it's for me, I'm busy. Now, stories of Jeff's last gig with the Stomp have circulated for years, and I wasn't going to tell the story here because I wasn't there to witness it, and I didn't see it firsthand. Okay, but then I got this email. This is an email from Buzzy, Chris Fleckner. Where'd it go? Okay, here it is. It's funny because even he doesn't want to tell the story. He starts out, Big Al, I certainly can't tell you about my most memorable memory of Yosty. It's when he played with us, and then he tells me. It's when he played with the Stomp at a gig in Indiana. Well, he was wearing roller skates and a shirt and nothing else. And he was leaning over the table talking to Greg, our sound man. Then he laid his cock and nuts on the table. Well, there was a guy and his girlfriend also sitting at the table, and, well, he says, I guess the guy didn't like it too much because we were almost immediately kicked out of the club. Certainly, I can't share this story.
Well, thanks for sharing that.
Anything for you. Hey, you know, all kinds of singers have walked around with their schlong hanging out. Haven't they, Guy? Okie doke. And having known Buzzy for 35 years, I'm taking his account of the story for gospel.
Boy, did we have a day that day?
Are you the one responsible for that? Boy, you got more balls than I got to admit that you caused that story. Oh, wow. Maybe that's why they got upset, because it didn't go in the guy's drink too. He was pissed. I'm sure. In roller skates? I don't. We've gone far enough on this one. I don't need to. And we do have actual more people that witnessed the event. It's unbelievable. So, anyways, what's that? I bow to the king. Yeah, yours wouldn't have made it to the drink, would it? You want to say anything else, Lee? We can go. You know, I'm just warming up. Thank you for that. Beer. God, I love beer. How's your drink? I'm going to make you talk later and do things. Well. Listen. George. He drops his dick in your drink, you're going to kick him out? Okie doke. Just wanted to make sure. So that brings us up in the late 70s and into the 80s. Jeff did a lot of recording over at Mozika, at the Hanson Studio, Mozika, with a lot of different musicians. I know Guy was there, Curly was there. Shetz, did you go over there, or was just before you joined him, wasn't it?
Brother Bill.
Well, you did go over and do some recording there. Brother Bill was there. You gave me a whole list. It was too long to copy, so I ignored it. Ringo was there? Yes, Ringo's name was on the list, too. Here, I'm sorry. I told you I was going to omit people, and when I do, scream and shout and slap your dick on the table. So, the next period we come up to is another one I'm going to spend a little time on because it's one that I remember with great fondness, and that was the Beat Boy era. Master Bates and the Beat Boys. This was a project Jeff had worked on for years, and where all those years of piano lessons really showed off, because the first time he showed me the music for the Beat Boys songs, I was overwhelmed. I mean, he had written and composed parts for an entire string section, entire horn section, for instruments I'd never even heard of. And when they get to playing, well, it was rock and roll. But when it began, when, Jeff, John Schetzer, Scott Spires, Christopher Martin, and George Keller, when it started, they had a truly, truly unique, hypnotic sound. And some of the songs, Something Spinning, All Alone in New York City, some of the songs were really, really beautiful, and all of it extremely well written. But then, yeah, and more cowbell. Thank God you got lucky there. So at any rate, a lot of that sound came from Christopher Martin. He had this big hollow body acoustic, 36 maybe. At any rate, it added a touch, and I wish you could have heard what Guy and I heard in the back room of my T-shirt shop across the parking lot where I let them practice. It was truly inspired and stuff. Yep. So, at any rate, Christopher left the band. They had another guitarist, and the sound really roughed up and rocked up. And I found I even liked it. It was night and day. It wasn't the same thing, but I loved it even more than I did, the where the hell's that coming from sound that I really liked. But they rocked it up really good. The gigs, well, there weren't a lot of gigs with the Beat Boys. I'm surprised. Haven't either one of you guys want to come up and say nothing yet? Scott, whenever you're ready. Chet's, whenever you're ready. But I'll finish this real quick, and then you guys can come up. The gigs, they played Rock at the Dock, if anybody was there at that party. Thank you. Rock at the Dock, that was with Christopher Martin. And then we played, well, Jeff says, hey, let's do a gig on top of the roof of the T-shirt shop, right during the middle of the Sauerkraut Festival. Well, what, George? Great idea, let's do it. Then we played the Quarry in Sandusky, which, look at the pretty red and blue and pink lights out over the water, to which Shlomsky, if anybody knew Shlomsky from Thunderhead, looked at this band playing the beautiful music, and Jeff, which had turned something spinning around in my head to something spinning around in my head. And Shlomsky looks up and goes, hey, look, Beauty and the Beast. And that pretty much described it. They played the Cuckoo's Nest. Awesome gig. I particularly remember Shetz. He's just jamming, and he takes that guitar, and he hits a beam. His eyes get this big, and like, oh. But this was the night where the coolest promotional idea that I've ever seen came into effect. They used to do a song called It's a Nice Night, and it's a nice night for a suicide. And Jerome Brooks was working at Quick Cut. At one point, Jeff cuts his throat. Well, Jerome Brooks got a Ginsu knife from Quick Cut, didn't put an edge on it, but inscribed suicide on one side, masturbates on the other. And Jeff would put 2 tubes of Fun Blood in his hand. And at this point, he'd scream and he'd cut his throat. Well, we had all these shirts printed with the Beat Boy logo on them, white muscle shirts with just the Beat Boy logo on them. And for sale, we printed a whole bunch that had blood over them, pouring down the front. And Jeff does the song. He had a white shirt with nothing on it. Does the song. The blood comes down. Look just like the ones we were selling in the lobby. What a success. We sold 3. Also, anybody who was at the Isaac Walton, the Halloween Bloodbath, they also played the 3rd TSIA out on Smoke. That was at the Smokies property. Out off Fort. Yeah, it was off Limerick. Yeah. Yeah, I was in the area. I'm not going to. Okay. And what was the other one we were talking about? Oh, well, Right, the other half party. They put the other half party and Serwins. No. Yeah, that was over by Holgate. Yeah.
With the London boys.
Oh, it was big fun too. I thought the volleyball games were the best. But at any rate, Scott, is there something you'd like to say? Come on up. Come on, Chet. You ain't getting out of it. Come on up. I'll drink beer.
Here, Al.
Hard to follow, Al.
No. Guys, give me a chair.
To be honest, I didn't drive 8 hours and wait 27 years to come here and skewer Jeff.
And you don't look like Ed Sullivan at all.
No. I can tell you this. Back in the 80s, he took this 20-year-old bass player who was too young to even go into the clubs we were playing. I remember Guy was our first drummer. He gave me a shot, and I still have no idea why. You guys know better than me. He's given us about 40 years of the best music I've ever played. Well, well, that's enough. By the way, that does remind me. I have greetings from my dad. My dad says hi, and he would love to have that $50 for the pictures we took at Spiegel Grove. And then I find out Al did figure out I was stealing roaches out of his little ashtray over at the t-shirt shop. So if you can just give the $50 to Al,
I think
then we'll be even.
I think those were George's roaches.
So anyway, how do you handle hecklers, man? Anyway, it really was an honor back then, and it's a shame it was so short-lived. And on a personal note, I'm about to celebrate 19 years clean and sober in 2 weeks. No, I owe it to Jeff. Jeff has been... No. Seriously. I remember the last time I saw a Marine, I had just gotten out of jail in the Navy. And she asked me, why am I visiting Jeff when I just got out of trouble in the Navy? And I said, well, Marine, Jeff has always been a positive influence on me. And she said, a positive influence? I said, yeah, I just failed the piss test for the Navy. I was positive for cocaine. I was positive. Anyway, one last thing, and then I'll let shots up here. If it wasn't for Jeff, I would not be clean and sober today. Because every day I can log on to Facebook and I look at his picture and I go, oh, Christ, no. I do not want to look like that when I'm his fucking age.
Thank you. Scott Spires, the original bass player with the Beat Boys, and he's up back in town for the first time in 27 years.
I haven't seen Scott in 27 years. This is amazing. Look, I have, like the highlights in my hair, huh? Well, I'm clean and sober too, Scott.
Yeah, but it's early.
Okay, first, just random things about Jeff, and you guys are his friends, and you'll know this, but when he takes off his shoes, his feet smell like roses. It was like a year I knew him. Then we went to New York. We're in a hotel room, and I'm like, what is that awful smell? I think I'm going to get sick.
We were in Ann Arbor. Jeff, put your shoes back on.
Something else I got to just say. You are an absolute saint. I mean, I look at Jeff. He's never worked a day that I've known him since 1981. You know, and this is a roast, so I can say anything, right? Your dick must be at least this big, or your tongue just never quits, because how did this woman stay with you all these years? Okay, it's a roast, I can say that. Every job that we played with, oh, and one more thing. Do you know what it's like going through life being called a beat boy? George, it sucks, doesn't it? Oh, you're a beat boy. I'm a what? Anyway, every show that we played, there is a new story, and I can only pick one, maybe two, but this one I'll just never get out of my head. George, it was, I think, your idea to play the Ballville Township New Year's Eve party. Okay.
That's the one I forgot.
So we show up. It's an older crowd. Well, everybody was older to me back then. And we're playing this show, and the people aren't getting it. They're all dressed up. And so we're going to finally finish our first set. Jeff comes out dressed in white again. Scott will remember this. But instead of the usual 1 tube of Fun Blood, he grabs like 3 tubes, sticks them in his hand. He does, it's a nice night for a suicide. What's the slash my razor slash underneath my head? Does this. I'm standing next to him. Blood squirts on me, on my guitar, all over. It never really went that far before. It just went over all over everybody. We end. There was not a lot of applause. We get off stage, and these 3 big guys come up to me, and I'm thinking, oh no, they wanted to kick our asses. I'm like, you know what? Jeff's like, what's going on? They said, you assholes, do you know that our wives are puking in the parking lot right now?
Yes! You know you're hip when that happens.
And you know Jeff, he does, because I've seen him do this before. I'm sorry, you know. And he gets out of it. I just don't understand. Where'd you learn that from?
That was. Hey, Scott had blood all over his bass too. Unbelievable. It went everywhere.
Okay, again, every gig had a story, but probably the best was when we played over here on the roof, and we tried to get into what was called the Sauerkraut Festival. We gave them our promo pack. We're going to get a real job. Well, they wouldn't hire us because they had a country band or something. So Jeff, Al, I don't know who, came up with the idea. We're just going to set up on the roof right over here, and we're going to put on our own show. So we spend the entire day taking up, God, we had so much stuff. We actually took up lighting. We took up full PA cabinets. We had a snake that ran over to, what's his name? The building across. I mean, we had the sound man set up everything. So we're...
Butch on the top of the fire escape across the alley with the follow.
We had the follow spot. We were going to put on a big show. Gets to be showtime. We are dead because we've just worked our asses off all day. We get up on stage. The parking lot now is completely packed with people. George, how many people would you say was in that parking lot when we started? Let's just say 500-600. Okay, so we finally start. Dun 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 dun. Jeff's voice is completely gone. The very first thing that came out of his mouth. If you're looking for a party, and there was nothing. So here's Jeff with the microphone. He walks over to the camera.
By the second song, there was 20 people in the parking lot. For the original 300 to 500.
So the parking lot clears out, okay? I went up and attempted to sing, which is even worse than Jeff not singing. So then we didn't have permission to do this. So so the cops are called. Well, Al, he ends up locking the whole building down before he leaves, and then he goes. Did you go to the bar over across the street at the annex? Looking out the window. So the police come, and they're trying to figure out how to stop us. But George and I, we look at each other and like, hell, let's just keep playing. So we're playing. The cops are now down at the bottom of the building, and they're telling us to shut things down. You rascals, get off that building. You don't have permission to do this. We keep playing. Finally, they go across the street, and they find the landlord of the building, Al.
We're trying to get Al Cooper.
Al Cooper.
He's in the beer tent.
He's in the beer tent. They get Al Cooper. They come back over to the building. We're still playing the whole time to the whole 5 people that are now in the parking lot. And I'll never forget this. They open up the building. They go inside, and they just started pulling our electrical plugs out of the wall like this. So we're up there playing. Pretty soon the lights go out. Then the PA system goes out. Then the bass goes out. George and I still jamming. Then the guitar goes out. And we're playing a song called I Don't Want to Stop. And then I'll never forget this. The guitar finally goes out, and I look over, and there's George with that devilish look in his eyes, and he just kept playing. And he played, and he played. No, we could go on all day with stories, but I'm not going to do that. I just have to, one more thing, Jeff. When I first heard your music, because he had this stuff written out for everybody. John, you play a F diminished minor. I'm like, what the hell is that? Here, just play this. Scott, you play this. I absolutely hated this music. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. That is not a rock and roll tune. And it took me not long to figure out that these songs are just absolutely the best. And Jeff, I am shocked that you don't have a boatload of money for these songs, but I think you're going to have to die first, and then maybe all of the money will start coming into your wife, I'm thinking. Okay. But no, I absolutely love these songs, and thank you for asking me to be a beat boy.
One more quick note about the rooftop gig. So like he said, we had the snake run across the alley to the roof, the lower roof of the building across, who Logan owned, and we didn't ask her if we could use it or anything. And like I said, we put Butch up at the top of the follow spot. So in the middle, here comes the owner of the building, and Dana Kaiser was running sound. And he comes up to Dana Kaiser and says, "I want this shut down now." And Dana Kaiser turns, looks at him seriously, and says, "I shut down when the band tells me to shut down." Oh, okay. The owner steps back. Monday morning, George and I are in the T-shirt shop working, and here comes the landlord from across the alley. And he comes in real sheepish-like, and he says, "You know, I just had my roof done, and the other night somebody poked holes, like in the side where the brick comes up 3 or 4 feet, the tar paper would come up on it thing. And I'm sure it was Smokey with his cowboy boots who kicked holes in the tar paper." And he tells me, you know, he says, the worst part was it was probably done by somebody who wasn't even supposed to be up there. Well, like there was somebody that was supposed to be up there? I don't know. So I said, well, we'll try to take care of it. And George and I go to, 10 minutes later, George and I go to lunch at Chud's. Well, and we had asked him who did his roof. Barry Macham. We go to Chud's, and there's Barry Macham sitting there at the counter. We told him what happened. He says, "Well, let's go down and take care of it." So he goes straight down, fixes it, comes over. "Barry, what do we owe you?" "Oh, you got a joint?" So for a joint, we had this guy's roof fixed an hour and a half after he told us about it by the guy who had never got in any trouble whatsoever. I did make sure to pay my 2 months back rent I owed my landlord the following Monday. But nobody got in trouble. It wasn't, well, I know that Big Bill sat up at Fountain Park, Flag Park, and listened to it and said it was like it was across the street. That's what kind of PA we had set up. Hey, I got more cards to go through. After all, that's 85. Lord have mercy. Well, and rightfully so. Anytime they want to start it, these guys are ready. So at any rate, through the rest of the 80s and 90s, Jeff continued to record either at Muzika or out at Brownwood or around. I mean, he never sat quiet. And then in 92, he came up with another great idea, the Jeff Yost World Record Concert Tour. Well, although I believe Pride accompanied him on several dates, it never really panned out or lasted as long as it was supposed to. However, he did perform approximately 1,500 shows in 180 days. And if that ain't a world record, it sure as hell ought to be. Wouldn't you have just loved to have heard his voice at about show 1450? His voice, such as it is. Huh? How many do you want? In 95, George had his T-shirt shop in the Christie building, and Jeff came and they built a studio together. And well, recording continued for a while there, and well, I don't know that it ever stopped or he ever stopped getting ideas or you know, didn't want. So in '04, the Beat Boys made a brief reappearance with Gary Keaton on bass and did a gig at the Yacht Club, which was pretty hot. Then came the Jeff Yost Abstraction, which also was played a gig at the Yacht Club, a very well-received gig at the Yacht Club. I mean, I remember that the whole area in front of the stage, you were there. It was packed that night.
They didn't sell a beer while we played.
They didn't sell a beer while you played,
Is that
huh?
good promotion for a bar?
Well, they didn't want anybody leaving them on the, you know. It was a great performance. I'm telling you, not for 1 minute, with all this grief I'm giving him, do I want you to think that I have not always been impressed with his writing talent, his playing talent, his ability to self-destruct at any given moment. Always. And if for anybody, or should have been, or for anyone who doesn't know, he is still performing live in the Jeff and Kev show. When's the next gig? Over at the over at Lizard Lounge? What is it? Lagoon Saloon? Or
Saturday.
when is it? You play this Saturday? A week from Saturday. What time? It's an afternoon gig. 1 to 4. See, that's when they let old people play. But anyways, you can see him at a venue near you, or of course, any day you can stop and see him at the Yacht Club pool.
That's all
Omitted here, I said, are several bands and lots of the musicians he played with over the years. I didn't mention the time he spent in New York or in Europe, and mainly that's because just to think about what he did on those trips scares me to death, and I've never even asked him about them. Well, I guess he started to tell me one time, and I said, no, don't go any further. So at any rate, people have asked me what in the world we were thinking when we decided to do this. And as I've already said, it really came from deep respect, friendship, and love. But a couple of months ago, Down Under Thunder was playing Stone Street. And I don't know, it might have been the alcohol or something, but it just came to me. And I ran up to George, who was fixing their sound at the time. And he said, wow, that's a good idea. And I went up to Shetz, and I said it to Shetz. And well, before I could even ask Jeff about it, Shetz had already called him. But after I ran the idea past both of them, they both said the same thing. Great idea. Let's do it. Thank you. Let's have some music. Anybody else? Anybody else? I think we've been pretty nice to him. Was it as bad as it could have been? Oh, hell no. All right. Come on up. Hell, this boy, he hasn't run for cover yet. It's all yours. I need a beer. Wait a minute. I need a break here first.
I got nothing but good stuff to say.
I'm better now. Oh,
You're treating these records like crap.
oh. Wow, that record fell right out of the sleeve.
Ain't he supposed to play this?
No, we already did. Did you miss it?
I missed it.
Okay.
Anyway, I known Jeff for a long, long time. Neighborhood kid. And we go back quite a bit of times. And we were down in Columbus and doing a gig in Mr. Brown's. And he's kind of a promotional manager, too. And he shows up at the bar in a banana suit handing out flyers for the show. That's how dedicated that boy is to music. Oh, yeah. That's probably one of my best memories of Jeff. They're all good memories, actually.
Walking down the center of High
Oh, yeah. High Street, baby. But, no, it's been real fun playing with Jeff. I've had quite the learning experience with this guy. He kind of stuck up for me for quite a few things, I believe. And I'm still here today, still playing. We'll play till the day I die. And I think it's time to play a little music.
So you shot yourself with happiness, got dazed beyond belief, and the blue world's crashing. Thanks, Louis. Working on you. Satisfaction is relief, and you're pressing on some different now with style and with flash, and there's makeup where there once was none, mascaras in your lash. Oh, it's all different now. It's all different now. It's all different now. Days rush by for more and more. It's all madness now. It's all madness now. It's all madness now. In 1974. 1974. 1974. You're reading all the signs of times. The future is looking dim. The game of life gets treacherous. You're wondering if you're